Few things are for sure in this life, but this is. If we live for any substantial amount of time, we will encounter grief due to the loss of a loved one. Not something any of us ever want, and we all handle it differently. This podcast is to feature those who have done purposeful and meaningful things through their grief. These people featured on here are normal folks, just like you and me, who were thrust into a place they never wanted to be in their lives. A painful place. As they moved through their pain, they realized that something worthwhile, something for the greater good, could come out of the unthinkable. I'm sure that none of them would ever consider themselves to be a hero, but when I searched the definition of the word hero, I found this: a person who is admired or idolized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. And that fit. And so it's my privilege to bring you the remarkable stories of these heroes in grief. Hi, everyone. This is Tom, your host for the Heroes in Grief podcast, and the response has been incredible so far, and I want to thank you for that. It's getting out to people, and they're letting us know that it's helping them, and that is what it's all about. I want to make you aware of a way that you can support this podcast without having to spend 1 cent, and that is through affiliate marketing. I've set up affiliate marketing for online shopping. If you do online shopping, then I have links to all the major retailers, most of them anyways, and I can provide them for you so that when you buy online through those links, you'll help support the podcast through the percentages that we get. It doesn't cost you anything more. You just shop like you regularly would on the sites that you love. It's very easy. All you have to do is shop. And that's it. Just let me know the links to the places that you want to shop at, and I will provide the affiliate links so that you can do it. If you want more information on this, you can go to heroesandgrief.com. It takes you to the Linktree page where a video explains it in a little more detail. But you can always email me at tom@heroesandgrief.com, and I can answer questions for you. But you can support the podcast that way, and it's very easy, very simple, and it doesn't cost you a cent. Isn't that great? Thank you. Now here's today's episode. But we're already rolling. I just, very casual, I had no formalities with me.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Good morning. You're in Colorado?
I am. I'm in Castle Rock, Colorado, about half an hour, 30 miles south of Denver.
South. Okay. I spent a summer in Granby.
Okay. Yeah.
North
That's a little
up
bit more
there.
north than west, or is it east, north?
Yeah, I think it's northwest.
Yeah.
And I worked at a YMCA camp when I was a junior in high school, junior and senior year in between there. And it was very cool. Great experience.
Yeah, we love Colorado. We're from New York. We're New Yorkers. We moved here 10 years ago.
Yeah. New York City?
Long Island. I worked in Manhattan for a while. I lived in Brooklyn. I went to school upstate, but mainly Long Island. That's where I was born and raised. And that's where we ended up. We lived in Long Beach, the South Shore of Long Island, for 8 years before we moved out here. Me and my husband.
I'm in Niagara Falls, New York.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
From Buffalo originally.
I visited a friend up at school. So I went to Albany. And I've only been in Buffalo to go visit my friend at school. But I love New York. I'm proud to be from New York. And upstate is a whole different animal. It's like not even close to Long Island in the city, but we're very happy out here. It's a little calmer.
Yeah.
Quality of life.
Quite.
Yeah. It's just a lot of nature. It's really it's beautiful.
Yeah. All right. I'll do a little brief intro, very brief.
Okay.
So, and then we just talk. All right.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Sound good. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Heroes in Grief. Thank you for watching or listening today. And today I'm with Amanda McKoy Flanagan. And Amanda is I missed my page here. Hold on. Oh, I got you. She's a writing coach, a grief coach, an energy healer. She's a co-podcast host. Yeah, this is how podcasts are done. Live ones, right? Here we go. So, and she's an author as well. So we're going to hear about all these great things that she does and her story and everything. And I know that we relate on some of the story because I was reading about your experiences and stuff. So Amanda, thanks for being on Heroes in Grief. Appreciate you being on. Thank you.
Hi, Tom. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. So if you don't mind sharing your story, I think there's power in the stories. And so we share those so that other people can glean from them. And then I'd love to get into the wonderful things that you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much. I haven't actually told my story in quite a while, it seems. So, born and raised in New York, fellow New Yorker. Tom and I were just talking about that.
Right.
I think I experienced loss and grief before I even knew what those words were. I think there was some childhood issues, childhood emotional abandonment issues. My parents were great. They were wonderful. They provided for us, but they were working with whatever experiences they had picked up along the way, right? And I
Yeah.
feel that some of my and my brother's emotional needs kind of went unmet here and there. Learned all about that later in therapy, which I'll get to. My first brush with loss, I guess, would be my grandparents, when I was in high
Hmm.
school. I was young, 12 when my grandmother passed away, 17 my grandfather passed away. He passed away from Alzheimer's, so he kind of was that, decline from like much younger in my
Yeah.
life. But we didn't really talk about it. We didn't really, my mother was very devastated when my grandmother passed away. Um, and we kind of just okay, we went to the funeral, smelled the lilies, which
Hmm.
always give me that funeral memory. And I didn't really know what to do with it. I didn't really, it was like, okay, this is just, I guess, a part of life. We didn't really talk about it much, didn't process it. Like I said, I didn't have the words. I didn't understand what grief was, what that feeling was that I was feeling inside. I didn't know what that was. So that's when my drug and alcohol career kind of kicked off. When I was about 16, I got heavier into drugs and alcohol. And that in and of itself was just the beginning of a major loss of self-respect, loss of dignity, loss of control over my life. I was a straight A student, National Honor Society, held a job at, 13, 14 years old. I started working at an IHOP. I waitressed a long time. I was functioning. I was doing really well, but I was declining at the same time. Went to college, went to SUNY Albany, upstate New York, was in a very dysfunctional relationship, and drugs and alcohol kind of just kept going. And that relationship after college, and I get sober. I got sober in 2006. I was 26 years old, and that was another loss. Like, I didn't realize how all these sometimes we hear grief and we just think it's of a person, somebody dies. We think death, right? That's why, so I call myself actually a loss and empowerment coach, because I think loss covers the full gamut of human experience when anything that we love, that we need, that we want is taken away in in one form or another. So I realized, getting sober, there was a loss of friendships, there was a loss of places I would hang out, familiarities. There was just a loss of who am I now? I really never had known myself to begin with, but it still felt like a loss. It felt like
Hmm.
I have to now change everything about me, and I don't even know who I am. I couldn't
Yeah.
tell you my favorite color. I couldn't tell you my favorite food. I was like consummate chameleon. I was just whatever you wanted me to be. So I had that inner loss, that sense of self, which I never knew my whole life until I got sober and started to find myself. 8 months into my sobriety, my boyfriend dies. He relapses, overdoses, doesn't wake up on Easter
Oh
morning.
my gosh.
He's also
Yikes.
8 months sober. Yeah, we met like the first week we went into recovery.
Mm.
So that, even though I say my grandparents were like the first actual death, Mike, that's his name, Mike's death was the upheaval, was that sudden and unexpected shock and trauma of here today, gone tomorrow. Like, how does that even happen? Like, I couldn't wrap my head around that. So I took that very, very hard. Luckily, I was very well connected in my 12-step program. I was on my 8th step, I believe. And I remember speaking to my sponsor who had lost her husband a couple years before. And there are no coincidences why we are drawn to people, right?
Hmm.
And I said, "What do I do, Tara? Like, tell me what to do." And she said, "Keep going with your step work. And when you're done with that, start helping other women." And I said, "Okay, that's what I'm going to do." So I jumped right back in, never really healing my grief. Again, kind of just not knowing the words, didn't go to therapy, didn't like do the stuff that I know is helpful now. So meet my now husband. shortly after Mike's passing. And we, things are great. Life is great. Life is good. We're having fun. He owns this house down on the beach on the South Shore of Long Island, and we're riding bikes on the boardwalk. And he's a fireman. He's retired now for FDNY. And, like the world was like our oyster. It was great, so there was no reason to look at any pain or anything like that. He was going to be my knight in shining armor. Basically, he was going to take me out of whatever pain I wasn't even aware of that I was carrying all those years and make it go away, and everything was going to be great. So we have a baby, we get married, we have a baby. Then we get hit with Hurricane Sandy. And because you're in New York, devastating that was. So we lived, like I said, on a shore town on a barrier island called Long Beach, and that got covered from beach to bay, 4 feet across the whole thing. Schools floated off of foundations. There were jet skis, wave boats were all over the place. It was a wild, wild, wild scene. A lot of our friends lost their homes. We got lucky. We had a certain type of house where we had the basement. So we went up to the rafters in the basement, but the first floor didn't take water. Anyway, at that point, I think it's time to get off the coast. And I pulled out a map and I pointed to the middle of the country, and it was Kansas. And I said, I'm not so sure that this New Yorker is going to do well in Kansas, but why don't we warm up and start in Colorado? I see Colorado right next to it. My friend had just gotten back from a retreat and she loved it. She had amazing things to say about it, and I trusted this woman with like my whole heart. So I knew immediately. I'm very little psychic, a little highly, highly intuitive. Like anybody, you just know things. If you feel enough, you just know things. And I knew we were moving to Colorado. We moved out to Colorado about 2 years later, and that was where I had my first major emotional breakdown in recovery. And that happened about a year after being here. I was having some relationship issues. I mean, my mother was very upset that we moved. That was a big issue. Some other family members kind of felt abandoned. And then I was having some issues with people that I had met here in the program, and it just was a very, very, very difficult time for me. And so about a year in, I kind of hit the floor, and I doubled down again on what I know works, which was at that point I had a routine meditation practice. I'm waking up in the morning, going downstairs in the dark with a candle, and I had this connection to like a higher power. So I fell back on that, and I really went like deeper and deeper into the work that I know works: self-reflection, journaling, praying, meditating, running, all the stuff, the whole holistic world that I do. I was not in therapy though, which was a problem. What I didn't realize and I realized when I finally went to therapy, and I'll get there, was that I was suffering a major identity crisis, right? Going back to this identity thing of never knowing myself, never knowing who I was. I didn't realize how much of myself was wrapped up in being a New Yorker. And everything out here was just completely different. We've been here for 10 years now. So what I've done is assimilated. Like I still have my accent. I still have, my New Yorkness, my mannerisms. And, I like those parts of me. And I didn't want to get rid of those parts. But I think I was afraid that if I did, then I would lose myself, who I am. Who would I be, right? That's a scary thought for people. We hold on to things. We hold on to places. We hold on to people. We hold on to jobs, careers for our identity. So at this point, I was forced to really find myself, come home to myself. So again, doing all those practices, that was where I kind of felt that I talk a lot about unconditional self-worth as a way to feel safe in our own being when loss comes. We know loss is coming. That's sort of my antidote to I talk a lot about, and I'll get into this with my marriage, how sometimes grief can keep us a little bit separate, a little distant from people for fear of loss. So that was my first kind of foray into finding myself, trusting myself, knowing myself enough to be able to show up in relationships. But I just didn't know how to do it. So the first breakdown was when Mike passed away. I kind of glossed over that. That was a really, 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 really hard time. I was working in Manhattan. I was walking through the streets of Manhattan, breaking down. That was bad. Jumped into the step work. Here, now I'm on the floor crying, loss of identity. And I jumped into more service work in my recovery community. And we founded a clubhouse, a 12-step recovery clubhouse. And me and my husband, and we had a board of directors, and we felt that the community was not being served well enough in terms of it was growing. It was growing. There were 55,000 people here at the time. They were still kind of functioning on small town recovery, I guess you could call it. We needed more. We needed more A's. We needed NA. We needed SA. We needed OA. We needed all the stuff, ACA, in addition to AA. So we did that. And I bring that up because that service is what kind of has always pulled me out of those deep, dark places. It's always been getting out of myself and trying to help another. So I'm sponsoring women. I'm doing all that stuff. This is 2016. 2 years later, my brother overdoses. And that's the biggie. That's the one that just blows the lid off of. And I say lid off, figuratively, metaphorically. I still was trying to keep everything in this nice little box. Now I'm 12 years sober. I'm not hiding. I'm doing all the things. I'm looking as deeply as I can. I'm trying to do all the stuff that I know is good for me. My husband has PTSD, and I want to say had, because he's done so many different therapies and he's like a different person now. It's pretty miraculous what he's been able to accomplish with his own healing. His PTSD is getting worse. I'm still trying to assimilate and live in this new place. Now my brother dies. He's my older brother. And I had no idea. I actually met a girl at a farmer's market this weekend, and her brother, just so it turns out, again, no coincidences, that her brother just passed away, died by suicide about a year ago. And we were talking about how severe that like severing, like that loss feels. And if you've never lost a sibling, it's hard to describe. And I've had friends who lost siblings, but I didn't, and I felt for them and I saw how much pain they were in, but you really don't know until you're in that situation. And it was intense. It was a very spiritual experience for me. What was very interesting was I felt like I died the day that he died, like a big piece of me, a part of me, right? Childhood memories. Oh, we're each other's first friends, all of that. But then I also felt very alive. I also felt his spirit kind of come into me. And like, I was still devastated. I was devastated. I mean, I laid in bed for 3 months. I couldn't take care of my kids. All I could do was take baths and go to 12-step meetings, which thank God I wanted to go. I wanted to be there because I just was scared. I always say I'm no better than anybody else. I do most of this stuff to stay alive because my life depends on it. It's about, survival for me. Anyway, about 5 months after Jeremy dies, I tell my husband, I don't love you. And I don't think I ever loved you. And I think that my decision to marry you was completely like premeditated. It was like a really good logical choice. I don't think we ever had chemistry. I don't think it just wasn't there. And he says to me, all right, now he's also sober, right? I don't know if I said that. So at this point he's 22 years and I have 12 years. And we've been around long enough to know that typically what's presenting on the surface, especially after a major trauma, there's something going on underneath the surface. So he says, do you want to go to marriage counseling? Do we want to look at this? And I said, yes. And I've actually been asking you to go to marriage counseling for a couple of years, but okay, if this is what it takes, let's go. So it didn't just come completely out of the blue. We weren't extremely happy. Again, his PTSD, he hadn't treated it, all that at that point. This is 2018. So we go to marriage counseling. That's where she helped. My therapist is amazing. She helps me to, what I say, unravel this story that I had been telling myself, which I call the great myth. It's a generational family dysfunctional message, which I believe actually helped keep people safe and alive back when that was necessary, that we just don't need to operate anymore, but yet has been passed down. And our generation, what's going on right now, we all know we're experiencing this huge shift, right? So what was going on in me was this shifting of this is not okay anymore. But the great myth was everybody leaves, everybody hurts you. Protect your heart and love a little less. Always have the upper hand in a relationship. Don't ever really give of yourself. Stay a little bit like this so that when they leave or hurt you, you won't be as devastated. So what was going on with my marriage was not, I don't love you. It was, I'm afraid you're going to die. Like I mentioned, my husband's a firefighter. He's a 9/11 first responder. He is chronically ill with respiratory illness. He is 12 years older than me. So completely unconsciously, my brain went into protection mode. That's what it does. It keeps us alive. It's our greatest defense mechanism. You kicked in And it said, no, Amanda, you're not going to have to lay in bed for another 3 months and not be able to take care of your kids. You're going to just kind of grieve it all now. And you're going to keep yourself safe and protected to never have to feel that pain again. And you're just going to push them away. So all those long story short, it was basically all of that grief had come up that I hadn't dealt with before. And it was so overwhelming. And I felt like I was dying inside. And that need to survive convinced me really to kind of burn down everything that I had spent years building that really was wonderful. But it pushed both of us into a lot more work. It pushed him into healing his PTSD. And it just awakened me. And then that's where the book was born from. My book is called Trust Yourself to Be All In. That was not a conscious decision. That was the end of COVID-ish. I'm starting to consider what am I going to do when I get out of this house, because I literally cooked dinner for 378 nights in a row because we had to take it seriously because of my husband's chronic illness. It was great. It was a crazy time. And what am I going to do? And I looked at my life. I looked at my education. I have a master's in social work. I have an English degree, journalism minor. Was my minor. What are my natural gifts? I'm a communicator. What am I passionate about? I'm passionate about not just helping others, but really what this kind of rose from was the severe division we felt in 2020 and how disconnected we still are. Unfortunately, my book is evergreen, and it seems to be even more meaningful as time marches on, because underneath it, the message is healing our energy will help to heal the collective. And I deliver it in a way of showing people how I healed and am still healing. I always say there's no summit of personal development. I'm still healing, but I've gone enough. I have enough experience to have some healing and be able to give that away and show people how they can do it, because I believe that the turmoil out there is because we're in chaos in here. And I think it's going back to that shift I was talking about, that things are changing on a major collective spiritual level, and we just don't know how to process it inside. We're scared. We don't have the language. We don't have the tools. So that's where I was running one day, and all of a sudden it was like, you're going to write a book. And I was like, okay. And then like the floodgates opened. And have you written a book, Tom?
No, I authored in an anthology. It just got released, actually.
Okay.
Just a chapter. There's 14 of us shared our grief stories in there.
Okay.
My son passed 2 years ago from fentanyl, 27-year-old Jeffrey. And I've also lost a brother.
Okay.
And our grief journeys are similar. I lost a grandmother when I was very young. And again, I didn't go to the funeral home, nothing like that. I was too young. And then my dad died when I was 10. And that was my first real experience with all of that. But the same thing, no real jarring work or dealing with it. It just happened, and this is life. Saw all the experiences around me and everything, of course, and the horror of my mother and dealing with that and all that. But so much of your story, thank you for sharing it, because there's so much to unpack in there. And I think it's so relatable for so many too, because of, you talk about with your addictions and things. And I have a daughter, Jeffrey's sister, who is 2 years older than him. And she was heavily into addiction, and she's now out of it for over 2 years, or just 2-year mark, I think, right around now.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
For
And
all of you,
so
all of you, it's a celebration for the whole family.
thank you. Yeah. And she has expressed to me much of what you said about, and I said, yes, you're learning what real life is, because her whole life was avoidance, in every way. And that chameleon thing was exactly her, to just conform to whatever people wanted her to be. And that's what she did with me all the time. And the lies from that I despised. And, but yeah, there's so much to unpack in there. And I really just appreciate you sharing all that. We get into so many things in that, but the jarring thing, I had one jarring one when I was in school, still high school. A friend of mine got killed in a car accident coming home from a concert. And I was with him a couple nights before it, or the night before. And so I'm looking at him in the casket, and I'm like, this isn't Rusty, this is not him. And that's probably where things kind of started with me, although I didn't let them really expand at that time. And so, the journey along the way and deaths along the way, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, just all along. But I was at that time, I was a pastor. I was a Christian pastor. So I see, and even when my brother died, I look at that now because Jeff's death, my son's death, was so much different for me in impact and all of this. Even my mother passing a couple of years before Jeff, she was 95, lived a long life. I kind of had anticipatory grief for a long time and processed that and did the things I needed to do to make sure that I had no regrets. So that was one way of handling all of that. And it really didn't have the devastating impact on me that I thought it was going to when she died. But now I look back on all those, and sometimes I feel kind of like, did I shortchange my grief in those things? And it's just the way it was, it's just the way things happen. Now I can go back and probably look at it differently and process them a little differently. But yeah, there's so much to draw out of all of those at different times and everything, and your experiences, that journey. But and yes, that getting back to the all in and allowing yourself. I think of this with my pets all the time. I love dogs. I know I'm going to outlive them. Pretty much, it's the way it's going to be. And I have outlived many of them, but I love them so much when they're here, and they're so valuable to you when they're here. And I just say, well, I'm going to make this the best time that it can be in what I have. And I know that's going to come, it's going to hurt, but I've allowed myself to have that chance, I guess, or whatever. But yeah, so there's so many great things to bring out of that. My mind's going crazy as you're going through all your things.
I'm sorry. I'm a long talker, and I kind of...
Oh, no, it's good. It's all good. I think it's excellent that people are going to be able to listen to that. So many different people are going to draw from different things. And that's
what I love about about the talking about your dogs and loving your dogs. When I was going through all this fear of, okay, my husband's most likely going to die before me. How do I manage this? Right. So how do I actually be all in? And one of the things, well, first it's by being all in with me. Like I said, finding myself, my self-worth, my sense of self, that I always have myself, and I like myself today. I want to be with myself. I'm not afraid of being alone. And I also know that I have God, my higher power, source, universe, whatever you want to call it. So I never really am alone. But somebody had said to me, why don't you make your mantra, I live for today and just for today? And that helps me so much to stay present, because that fear or whatever takes me right out of right now. It puts me 10, 20 years down the road, wherever that might be, whenever that day might come. And I'm missing, like you're saying, like enjoying the time you have with your animals. Like I'm missing out on all the stuff that's here right now, which is life. And it's amazing. And it's where I'm learning to love and be all of those things that I want to be: compassionate, understanding, kind, all of those things. That can only happen here. So I do not want to be on my deathbed. This is I do not, my biggest fear is being on my deathbed and saying to myself, I didn't love as much as I could because I was scared to lose. I refuse. And it's still a struggle, just because I've written the book and I've done the work. And like I said, I'm still in it. Things still come up. But I have tools now to manage, just like our grief, right? It's never gone. It's never over. We never move past, right?
Hello, friends. I just wanted to take a brief break here in the podcast to make you aware of a very exciting partnership that Heroes in Grief has just formed, and that is with Get Griefy Magazine. I'm going to let their founder and editor-in-chief, Kara Sanchez, tell you all about it.
Hey, Heroes in Grief listeners. Life after loss isn't easy, but it can be colorful and full of possibilities. Meet Get Griefy Magazine, a vibrant resource filled with inspiring stories of life after loss, expert advice, and voices from everyday grievers and thought leaders. Together, they're here to help guide you toward the side of life that's left to be lived fully and authentically. Dive into Get Griefy for free on issue, or snag a print copy on Amazon. Connect with us on Instagram at Get Griefy Magazine, or visit getgriefymagazine.com to explore, join our thriving small business collective, or discover advertising opportunities. Let's embrace life after loss, boldly and together.
And now back to our episode.
but we move through life with it, carrying it with us in a way that's manageable. And that I do this. So I apply that to the
Yeah.
same, to even the fear of the grief. I just use tools that keep it manageable.
Mhm. And we'll struggle with our human self forever trying to battle the peripheral things that all affect us, and getting back to that central being and now, when in all those things you mentioned, the love, compassion, giving to others and everything, the things that truly do, they are our essence, whether we know it or not, whether people out there know it or not. And so those are the things that satisfy, that fulfill, and that they need to, keep getting in touch with. Any of us who I also meditate and believe in many of the things, I think we're probably in like mind about a lot of that stuff. And I firmly try to do that, or firmly, I don't know. I try to do that when all this stuff happens, when everything's going on and you get kind of lost in it. Judy always gets on my case. She's like, you watch the news all the time. And I'm like, I do. To me, it's kind of entertaining.
Oh, yeah. The
You know,
theater
I
of
mean,
the absurd. It's the theater of the absurd.
no matter how bad it is on what side, it doesn't matter to me. It's kind of entertaining. It's like, because I often go to this other perspective and I say, this stuff all really doesn't matter, and when you get to the core and the source, like you said, in touch with source and in touch with our, that part of it. I wish I had a way, and all I can do is talk about it, but what experience I have for others to experience that's all. That's why I talk about it, because it truly is peaceful. I can get to a state of peace and have that, and comforts and assurance and all of those things. And so, I know everyone's out there looking for that. So that's all I can do is share that,
Yes. 100%. Like you started out asking me to share my story. That's what resonates with people. That's what makes them see themselves in you or in I or any other story that they hear. It's that identification. And they say, wow, I felt like that. Right. And then they can say, and they get it. Right. You get it. She gets it. Whatever. Right. Like that person gets it. And then you build a level of trust or belief or whatever. And then when you hear the solution or what they're doing, then the person on the receiving end might say, oh, maybe that'll work for me. Also, that's the importance of the story, is the identification and knowing that somebody has walked your walk similarly, right? Of course, nothing is ever the same, but there are certain fundamental experiences with any kind of grief. Like I volunteer at a grief support place. I also do other programs with them, but it's great. It's called Heartlight Center, and it's online, a lot of virtual, the in-person and virtual, if anybody out there is listening and they're looking for some grief support. And they provide programs for very specific losses. So they have, loss of a child, loss of a spouse, loss of young spouse, which is interesting too. They have like if in like your 30s or 40s and your spouse passes, because it has a different texture. It has a different flavor than when you're 70 or 80 and you lose somebody, right? It's just different. But underneath all of those different ways or experiences, there are fundamental feelings of loss and grief, right? The despair, the hopelessness, the pain, the sadness, right? So I love working with Heartlight because I just think it's so purposeful and beneficial for people to be able to be with others who understand their loss in that similar way. It's very powerful. But again, it's just those stories, and sharing and sitting around. Peer support is so huge. Community is so huge, just to hear your story. I mean, and I learned that in recovery.
Yeah. And it's whatever works for you, right? Some people may want that specific thing. This podcast, the premise of this podcast is exactly what we're talking about. And that is that I was gleaning from other people's stories as I was going through my acute grief phase. And I just noticed that there was these things to take out of each one, and it doesn't matter. And you've expanded it like it should be for any kind of loss. People can listen to this today and hear your story, and they may be at a different point of life and maybe not experience that impactful grief event that we're talking about that caused us to vault into this. But, they're going to be able to use that part of your story and all of that. And so, it's really just opened it up and kind of, I know why I did this. It kind of helped me even see it again, or I'll realize it again. And that's awesome. So, that's just such a great thing, a byproduct of this, the ripple effect of
Yes.
what happens through all of this.
Yes. And thank you for having your podcast, because this age of technology that we live in, which I definitely have my doubts about and my issues with, but for this reason alone, it's just served such a wonderful purpose to be able to reach more and more people, right? That can maybe take one little tidbit of what you say or one line that I said, and sticks with that. And it just sticks. And maybe they don't even realize that it sticks today, but maybe when they are going through their own grief experience, or just they lose a job, or they have to move, or they just go through some kind of crises in life that's affecting them, your voice or my voice or anybody else's voice, might just pop up. Oh my gosh, I remember when I heard that. Where did I hear that? Right. And then it'll carry them through. Like, that's the beauty. I always say there's 8 billion of us here because we're supposed to be helping each other and sharing these stories. Like, as I was having a conversation with Erin Bleckman yesterday. I think you probably know her from Get Grief.
And Erin on, yeah.
It was on my show yesterday. I recorded with her yesterday.
Awesome.
We were talking about that, like, healing in isolation just doesn't work. Like, we need each other. And in the beginning, it's so hard to walk into that space of that community, right? Like, it takes a lot of courage to show up to a community, to a support group or something like that. But that's where the healing happens, is in community with that support, to know that you are not alone. You're not the only person that's feeling this. There are many of us, and then there are many of us that just don't talk about it. There's just, grief is just unavoidable life experience. I actually think it's more common to feel lost than it is to feel love. Because I think so many of us, from our own childhood experiences and whatnot, maybe past life stuff that we bring in, whatever it is, never really learn how to love. But we're all going to feel that loss, whether we want to admit it or not, and we can try and deny it and push it down, but it's there, and it's going to come out sideways in ways that usually hurt others, like my experience, having to put my husband through what I had to put him through, which ultimately, I say grief is a gift, and for people in acute grief, you might want to punch me in the face, but like that, when you get a little further out, you could see how it compels change. It forces some kind of change in a person, whether they consent to it or not. It's something, right? Do you like something that's happening under the surface?
Yeah, and it can take on any kind of form.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, because we're on a podcast or we've written a book or whatever the case is, that does not have to be where the person goes at all. It could be in the depth of the love that they have for what they lost. It could be anything that they recognize that is a benefit, that ends up being a benefit that they might not think initially, So that's why I love too that. And I probably should put out there about the podcast differently, because it's called Heroes in Grief, but it's really inspirational stories. That's really the way I look at it. They're inspirational stories, and we focus around the subject of grief, but there's something out there for people in these things, and whatever any of us do, I think, that allows that to happen. Yeah. Wow. So you work, what do you do with your coaching and everything? Is it one-on-one stuff that you work with people, they can connect with you online and that type of thing, or how is it handled?
Yes, I have in person and virtual. So I do that loss and empowerment coaching. I typically have like a package, and we'll meet like once a week for like 45 minutes. And why I call it loss and empowerment is because coaching, for anybody who doesn't know, it's different from therapy. Like, if you come to me and we do like a discovery call, like in that, free 30-minute discovery call or whatever, I will pretty much assess without being clinical about it. I am a master of social work, but like I'm not a clinical social worker. I'm not a therapist, but I use my intuition, and I feel into if I feel coaching is right for you, or if you really maybe need some therapy, because or both. You could do both at the same time, but I would never take on a coaching client that I feel I am not equipped to help. and work with. Like that feels very immoral, feels very unethical, very wrong to me. So if you're still like really grappling with some really, really, really hard stuff, I most likely will suggest therapy. But the coaching is for people that maybe are a little bit further out, right? A little bit in that where they can say, okay, how can I use my grief as a gift? How can I, I'm feeling this pull to step into my power and my purpose and whatever that purpose might look like. It doesn't need to be writing a book or starting a podcast or any of these other things that seem kind of big, you know, whatever feels purposeful to you is big, and so helping you to step in to make those choices using your voice, standing in your power, really coming home to yourself and unconditional self-worth and self-love, which I believe is this antidote to this fear of grief like we're talking about. So I work with people one-on-one that way. And then I do workshops and I take a lot of the stuff that I have one, I just did one called Living with Grief. And that's about how to integrate your grief in a way that serves you and helps you to move forward. So it's pretty much taken from the coaching tools that I use. I am certified. I went through a program. I also, since I've written a book, I feel that I'm qualified to help people write memoirs. So the bulk of my business is more in the book world because more people, everybody wants to write a book. Not everybody wants to talk about their grief, so it's a little bit more enticing for people. But it all comes under the same umbrella. Again, I'm an energy healer, so I call it energy infused coaching. So like we can do Reiki one session if you're having writer's block or you're afraid to feel your feelings, we'll try to move blockages and energy blockages through you. Again, chakras, all that stuff. I do EFT tapping. I'm also certified in that. So that helps to move the energy and rewire neural pathways. So I use all of those tools as why not, right? We're body, mind, and spirit, body, mind, and soul. So if there's something going on inside, I can help you move through that so that you can step into that place of empowerment, or you can put words on the page and feel like this is meaningful, this is purposeful, right? Get back into that motivation. So it's all under the umbrella of loss, though, because most memoirs are born from pain. I mean, that's sort of where we get our awakening and our enlightenment, I don't think we need to stay in the pain and stay in the suffering, but I definitely think it has its purpose. And very often after we go through these major life upheavals, we are compelled to do something, whether it's start a podcast or write a book or open up a center or whatever it might be, even, volunteering at your church or volunteering at wherever, right? Where we're compelled to share that story because we feel like we have something worthwhile. And that typically comes after pain. So,
or mending a relationship, right? Yeah.
There's so many ways that we can get to that, but it
I
involves
love bringing it back, so simple for everybody where, forget all this grandioso stuff or whatever.
No.
Never has to be that. In fact, whatever helps your life to flourish is going to be what that is. And how often have we heard, of people going through terrible, terrible things and how compelled they are to help others. And so I believe the same as you. I think that there is an enlightenment going on. I feel part of that. I talk about that often with, I'm in an organization called Helping Parents Heal, and it's all for people who have lost children. And we believe in the afterlife. A lot of us, it's part of the culture of that. It's not necessary, but we believe in we have evidential mediums come on a regular basis. Many of us believe in the afterlife and connection with spirit and everything. So it's a great organization of hope, but there is, it just seems that everyone out there, when I talk to them, even in their tough stages, they feel that change in them and that compassion level, that empathy level and everything, if they can get by some of the stumbling blocks that we've talked about, the isolation, these type of things. If they do engage and start dealing with it, normally they seems that more times than not, I should say, that they get to that point, to where they just have a desire to engage and help with others or assist others or be there for others, whatever it might be. And that is a great byproduct of the pain that you talked, as you talked about. And maybe the reason, I don't know. I think too that we're meant to be connected. here we bring on social media and all this stuff, and it ends up isolating us more than anything else. And but no, I think we are coming back to this realization and this enlightenment through so many different sources. And I talked about the Helping Parents Heal. I was like, what better way to get people's attention than for them to lose their children? If this is our course in our I believe that in soul contracts, these type of things too. And so, and yes, many of these people, they're doing amazing things.
Yeah.
And that's another thing where this all came out of too, to say, wow, there's something happening and I want to be part of it. And how can I help to get that out there? That's simply it,
I like that you brought up the evidential medium thing. I'm actually also a certified psychic medium, and I don't have that as part of like my business profile because I like it to just be word of mouth, because I'm not really interested in like proving anything to like a skeptic. Like, that's fine. Like, if you want to come test me, you can, but like, you're probably not going to get much out of it if you don't believe as well. But I believe that's always been in me. And it was one thing that I that was awakened after my brother's death. I mean, I started paying attention to it after Mike died in 2006. But then I took a course and I became certified and blah, blah, blah. But I want to know what you think. I feel like spirit, whether it's pushing you to like, so I really believe in spirit and connecting, like an energy never dies and all of that. And that's one way that I help people integrate grief into their life, that continuing bonds, not just making meaning out of or keeping a relationship alive through looking at a photograph or something, which is wonderful and helpful. But also if you really believe that your person is not really gone, like we don't ever have to fully let go. Like, yes, we have to let go in the physical and we have to come to a sane mindset and understand, right, that like they are gone. Like we have to have that acceptance. But if you keep that connection alive, in spirit, it's so comforting. It's so wonderful. And I think that my brother is doing all of this for me. Like, I feel like I am just, something's moving me. Something's moving me forward. Like, I feel like there's like a team, like my little spirit team is like behind me, like pushing me and pushing and giving me little thoughts and intuitions. Okay, reach out to that person or read this book or go here, go there, like at the farmer's market, speaking to this woman this past weekend, like I mentioned, her brother passed away. Like, my husband was actually the one that was like, I was lingering, but like my husband was like, hey, I want to look at these, and like we stayed and started, and then he started talking to her and then I started talking to her. But like, there's reasons why we're attracted to certain people and certain things, and following those, I call them spiritual breadcrumbs, right? I mean, I didn't make it up, but like doing that and like just listening and doing and taking action. I'm really big on like action because that's how I stay sober. We talk about that from day one. That was drilled into me. Like, you could sit and think and you could feel and you could meditate, and that's wonderful. But it's the messages you're getting to then take the action. You have to put the footwork in if you want the healing, or if you want to step into something that now your grief has inspired you to step into. It's just paying attention and then taking that action. And I think spirit drops. I think it's both. I don't think it's like science or spirit, like brain chemistry, or I think it's all working together.
Yeah.
Why not?
I keep getting confirmations, and I know how dense I am. and I believe Jeff, and I have spirit guides too. So I've explored it, and I have gotten into times where I'm doing decent meditation, and what I learned very quickly was how to center myself in regular daily activities. So I see myself as kind of meditating on a regular basis, just in daily life. And so I rested on that though, and that's not good because that stopped my development, or I think I need to meditate more, and I keep getting these hits, and I know it's Jeff, Dad, dummy, here you got another confirmation having you on. I had no idea that you were into this stuff. And this happens all the time on the podcast. Yeah. So I'm getting person after person where it's like, hello, wake up. And what I want to be able to do, like, Judy and I talk about this, right? Judy's not into this the way that I am, and that's fine. I don't want to be isolated from her, and I don't think it has to be that way. It's just that I need to incorporate it properly in what's happening in my life, And so I keep thinking of it that way, but it's not right. It doesn't have to be that way. It can be just the essence. Let the good things that develop from that come out of you. And
Mhm.
of course, what it comes to be is truly loving in life and caring for others. The two simple things, just like all of the religious texts say, everything else. That's all drawn out of this. This is what our purpose is here, why we exist. And
Yes.
so, you know, yeah. So I just need to, I'm a little dense.
Oh, I can still be as well. And I know that it's real and true and I can communicate, and we all can communicate, by the way. It's not a gift that I have been granted or other mediums have been granted.
I believe that.
You can
Yeah.
develop it. It's all in us. We're not separated from source. We're all one. And that energy is all, we're connected to everything, whether people are alive or not, or animals are alive or not. You can speak to animals too. But the connection piece is interesting that you're talking about. I think a lot of marriages kind of hit that place where like maybe one person takes a different path toward wherever our souls need us to go. And just because my soul is pushing me in this direction doesn't mean that my husband's soul needs to be pushed in this direction. It doesn't mean that we can't be together and connect on a different level. This is for me. This is my thing. I can be in this without him and he's on board, and he did hypnotherapy. It's called rapid resolution therapy, which is
I was going to ask you if he did EMDR.
he did EMDR, and he did that for about a year, and it was good and it helped a lot. But what happened was we went on a trip. We went back to New York. I said, a lot, that's like your trigger spot. Like, I'm not sure. We've had other issues on past trips. Anyway, he said, I'm good. We go. He had a little bit of an episode. I said, you need to do something more. So he found this rapid resolution therapy, which is technically 3 sessions. It's always rapid. And it's a hypnotherapy, but it's not you're sleepy, like you're totally conscious. And it's like a deep, deep meditation. And she rewires neural pathways so that the trauma that lives here, it's same thing kind of with the EMDR. Then it goes back here and it's not, and you're having your amygdala is being affected differently. It's just a different path of getting there. And some people EMDR works beautifully. Some people doesn't work for at all. So again, it's what works for you and what's right for you.
Mhm.
We're not all the same. And luckily we have all these different modalities. But like I talk about in my book, like the Venn diagram, and like I can be here and he can be here, and then we can overlap and meet in the middle on certain things. And then it's okay for me to have my own thing, and it's okay we should. That's actually very healthy for us to have our own beliefs like, I think sometimes people think we have to be 100% aligned with our partner all the time. And big trauma like this and grief and all this stuff is going to change you. So if you're changing in a way that your partner isn't changing the same way, doesn't mean that you have to split up or anything. It doesn't mean, there's just a different foundation, or there's a different way to connect with your partner, and you can let this be for you. It's like beautiful. It can be private and sacred.
It's a wonder of what we get to explore in this life, that we can be so different, but still have connection.
Yes.
And so that's awesome. Yeah. That we have that capacity. We do have that capacity.
Yeah. I talk a lot about like, the and both concept, or both and concept. I'm sure you've heard, right? Like we can have the pain and we can have the joy and we can have all of this. I think we limit ourselves, and I think we've been told to limit ourselves, the conditioning, right? The societal conditioning.
How boring.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just keep ourselves kind of in this human little box. Like, we're human and spirit. We're not one or the other. I don't believe we're 50% human, I think we're 100% human, 100% spirit. I think we're all of it. And that means that we have so much more capacity, like you use the capability to open up our heart space, our aura, our whole spirit in a way that we can embrace it all. Sky's the limit. Like,
it's so exciting.
Yeah, it's very exciting. And I think people need something to believe in right now more than what's going on, like you're talking about the news.
Yeah. If you think about us, for those who believe it, that we are existing outside of this humanness and this earthly existence. So we're going to come to Earth, right? And we're looking at the life that we could live and everything. And Earth is like this playground, really, and then we go down there, and it's like, if you go to Disney or somewhere, you want to do everything, right? You want to experience everything. that's the same thing. I think that life has the good and the bad, all the things that we experience. We may step out of this when we cross over and say, I was so stupid. Why didn't I do that? Or why didn't I let myself experience that? Or whatever the case is, And I don't know. It's kind of the way I look at it.
So interesting to look at. I love that you believe, afterlife and the work that you're doing with helping those parents. Like, it's so comforting to know that, like, there's more than just this, and that their child or anybody listening who's lost a loved one they really are okay. They really, really are okay. And I'm not trying to say, oh, they're in a better place and blah, blah, blah. No, but like their souls, most likely 99% of the time, are really at peace and they're with you. They're like right next to you, like all the time.
Engaged with you. Yeah. Amazing, Amanda. Every time this just blows my mind, and I will confess too, because I'm recording a ton of these right now on batch recording, so I don't have to do them through the summer. And so, I don't know, you're number 20 something in there, in about a month and a half. And so I'm waiting this morning and I'm like, okay, well, let's get going.
Yeah.
But this has happened so many times recently, like probably the last 5 or 6 really, where it's just, oh my gosh. Just blowing my mind, as you get into it and everything. And I look a little bit at people's stuff, but I don't like to get too much into it because I love to have these organic conversations. So, I like to get some background going for everybody. But so your site is AmandaMcKoyFlanagan.com. All right. So it's all spelled the way that you think it would be spelled. AmandaMcKoyFlanagan.
Well, actually, it's McKoy. I think most people would think McCoy.
Really? I would think K, man.
You would think K? Oh, okay. Then yeah. And it's spelled as you would think.
Yeah. So but anyways, everybody who listens to this knows that the show notes are all the links and everything. Now I'm looking on your site right now and it went away, but there was a pop-up that came up for people to put their email address in. What do they get when they do that? It was 5 pillars.
A free guide, 5 pillars for an empowered life after loss. So it's based on the acronym TRUST. So it's how to move into this empowered place. So true self, resilience, unconditional self-worth, surrender, and transform. So that's it's like a short little PDF that you get. But if you join my mailing list, you can get that, and you can always opt out if you just want the guide and you don't want to get the emails. I only send like once a month. One of them a month usually.
Everybody go there and sign right up for that now. Just put your email address in there. No problem. She's not going to spam you.
I will not.
And you're a co-host of the Soul Rising podcast, and that's SOL for soul, right? So what's your premise on all of that?
So it's basically, the tagline is all in on love, loss, and connection. And it's about how human emotion serves to connect us or disconnect us from ourselves, others, and the universe.
And how often are those released?
Every other week. I do it bi-weekly, so twice a month, and I have great guests, and I'm just and we're gonna record you in the end of July, I believe we're scheduled.
You are? Did you have me in there?
I think so. I think I have you in here. Hold on, let me talk, Tom.
Maybe I'm missing it. Now I said co-host. You're the host.
I do. I have Record Soul Rising Monday, July 28th. You better put it on your calendar. So I used to be the co-host of Soul Rising. Did you say that? Were you asking about that?
Yes.
So it started with my friend. So maybe you have an old bio or something. But it started with my friend, Ginny Oliva Smith. That's how we started this in 2023. Just she and I having these amazing conversations. So the whole first season is just she and I. And then she had to go back to work and she just didn't have the time. So then I started having guests on, which I was really kind of reluctant to do. I really didn't want to because our conversations are just so like next level. Like it was just so cool. So I was afraid that it was going to change the whole show, but it's been really great. Like I learned so much. I always have wonderful guests and like, it's just so cool. So it's not all about grief. I mean, the community that I'm in now, right, we Get Griefy and all of that, like that's kind of become more of my world. So those are the people that I'm talking to that are on the show now. But like, I do try to bring in people from different landscapes. Anything that has to do with emotion in any way. Doesn't have to be sad, doesn't have to be grief. It's just emotion in any way or tapping into our own selves, higher powers, self-worth, like anything that to do with personal development, I guess, but more in bringing it back to connection through emotion.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I'm open to this too. I mean, wherever it goes, I always say it's in the universe's hands, wherever, whatever's going to happen with this podcast. So, I used to sit there and think, oh, no, this subject didn't go where it needed to. Or I don't even care about it anymore.
Yeah,
It's like, let it just happen.
we go where we're moved.
Yeah.
And that takes away so much stress and anxiety when you just kind of let spirit or your brain, whatever it is, move you forward. Without trying
Absolutely.
too hard. Usually ends up a lot better than when
Yep.
I'm planning things.
Absolutely. Out of our hands, right?
Yeah.
Forget that. Anything that we didn't cover that you want to talk about?
No, I think we covered a lot. I didn't know we would go into this topic either. So this has been great. Thank you so much for having me on. I appreciate it. And thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Yeah. And stay on because we got to talk about the podcast that I didn't have down on my calendar.
You got it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Heroes in Grief podcast. If you'd like access to any of the links that we discussed in today's show, you can find them in the show notes. There's also a link there to support the podcast if you care to. And there is an email link for me there. I'd love to hear from you and your ideas about the show or what you thought about the show. You really can help out this podcast to get to more people if you subscribe, rate, or review it in whichever way your platform provides. Each week, Heroes in Grief is released on Sunday, so look for new episodes there. Thank you again for listening to Heroes in Grief.